these horror and sci-fi fans. We're here from horror, sci-fi, and beyond, and we're finally here, October 1st, the spooky Halloween season. And we're here to kick it off. We're going to review The Mummy, and we're here with a fellow Universal Monster fan, Bradley Renfroe. How's it going, man?
Oh, I'm doing great, man. Just been working on my novel, and
Oh, you're working on a novel. What kind of novel?
it's about, very Godzilla-like with these dinosaur deities that the ancient Pangeans worshipped, fighting off this evil monster that's basically a walking Holocaust.
Oh,
In my,
I didn't know that. 'Cause I haven't talked to you for like forever, man. It's been a minute. Yeah, but I'm looking forward to that. But anyways, I'm glad you can be on the Mummy review because I know this is your favorite Universal monster movie.
oh yeah, yeah, it is by far.
And just real quick before we dive into the actual review, since you're the first guest, I'm gonna ask these two questions for everybody else that's gonna be on these October videos. First question: what are some horror movies that you like to watch throughout the month of October? That like October hits and you have to watch like certain movies.
Well, obviously the Universal ones.
Yeah.
Uh, the Hammer ones,
Hmm.
the Roger Corman films starring Vincent Price, and the 80s slashers, and just the Godzilla and Kong movies and random 1950s sci-fi films because I watched a lot of that on AMC's Monster Fest growing up.
Yeah, AMC and TMZ always has some good stuff too. Second question, Halloween related question. Last year, me and my friend Eric actually did our top 13 favorite songs to listen to in the month of October. Do you have any songs that you like to listen to that like again with the movies that it's a must you have to listen to? Like it's not the Halloween season without these songs.
Mostly I do like listening to Michael Jackson's Thriller around that time of
Oh
year.
yeah, classic. So, anyways, let's talk about Boris Karloff's The Mummy. Why is this your favorite Universal? So this is your favorite Universal monster, like the actual monster, and then this is your favorite movie, right?
Yeah. Well, because aside from the fact Boris Karloff chews the scenery in every scene he's in,
Hmm.
uh, it's just a compelling story of like a love that lasts through the ages. I mean, in his own words, my love for you has lasted longer than the temples of our gods. Like, just
Right.
what he goes through, and it ultimately tragically ends that it doesn't happen.
Yeah, and that's the thing I like about Universal monsters is that besides like Dracula and the Invisible Man, like they're all sympathetic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Dracula is more elemental evil.
Yeah, and then Dr. Griffin is like he's power hungry. This one was one I didn't watch when I was a kid. I watched Wolfman, Dracula, and Frankenstein like on AMC like back in the day when I was like maybe like 8 or 9. I caught this one like literally like the last second of this movie. But I did grow up with like the Brendan Fraser movie, which I still love to this day. It's one of my childhood classics, like nostalgic classics.
Well, yeah, I mean, I do love that one too.
But and then when I got a little bit older and I started discovering like horror, I really got into horror. I didn't love this one initially, but as over time, the more I watch that, I really like it. Kind of like you said, Boris Karloff is amazing, and I will say this is more because me and my friend just reviewed Bela Lugosi's Dracula. This movie's more cinematically like visually interesting than Dracula. Because Dracula is like super boring, like cinematically.
Well, at least when you get after the castle scenes,
Oh yeah, yeah,
after that kind of goes down.
yeah, yeah, it's a slow movie for sure, but this movie is like just absolutely gorgeous. So, like, what are some scenes that like really stick out to you, or like moments that really stick out to you?
Well, one of them is the beginning where they're just kind of piecing this stuff together. That this is actually a true method in archaeology
Hmm.
where they look at the order of their findings in the day. Sir Joseph Wemple, the father of Frank Wemple, played by David Manners in this film, but he doesn't come till after this scene. It
Right.
starts in 1922 because this was inspired by the finding of Tutankhamun's casket. And basically, the guy is just the younger one, the protege, is just so curious about this box they've just found.
Right, and that's one of the notes I wrote on when I watched this today. Basically, the older guy basically says, "Our job is to increase the sum of human knowledge of the past, not to satisfy our own curiosity."
Yeah, and
I
more
think
is
that,
learned from studying broken bits of pottery than the sensational finds.
yeah, and I think, and it's a bit different from the Frankenstein thing, but it's kind of similar in the fact that like what Dr. Frankenstein was doing, he wasn't just discovering something scientific. He was
Yeah.
like changing the law of nature because
And
this is inevitable for us all, and he was kind of changing the thing. Kind of like here, they're just finding stuff, but this guy he wanted to kind of profit off of it a bit.
well, he's young and just in the field now, and translates the words from the scroll of Thoth. And you have Boris Karloff back there, all made up in that wonderful Jack Pierce makeup. And funny thing, Boris Karloff actually did fall asleep
Yeah,
in the casket.
yeah, because I mean, you're standing there like this with your arm crossed in the casket, like
Yeah,
all day. You're gonna fall asleep at some point. Like, can you imagine like him just sitting there in the casket like this and sleeping? And then,
yeah.
like one of the PAs, the production assistant, comes in. He's like, Mr. Karloff, Mr. Karloff, we're ready to film your big moment. Like, oh, okay, I'm sorry to fall asleep. Probably the best intro from any of the Universal monster movies. Just that whole part when like Karloff slowly moves his hand over
Yep.
the desk, and then you kind of see the bandages kind of slide over the desk, and he as he takes the scroll, and the guy like starts freaking out.
I know, and the fact that they didn't show Karloff walking around as the mummy, that would have taken great restraint on on the director's part.
By the way, Bradley, he's going for a little walk. And whether the thing I liked about that moment, it's kind of a throwaway line, but like it really brings levity to a very horrifying moment for not only the character but to you as an audience. Because it's
Yeah,
kind of a funny moment.
all you see are those two little bandages just kind of slithering out as he
Mm.
walks.
But what's interesting is it's like everybody thinks of the mummy as a guy, something around and like bandages like.
They think of Karras from the other movies, which, by the way, those are not sequels to this movie.
Yeah, they're completely different.
Although they do use footage from this one for the mummy's hand.
Throughout the whole movie, like it's just Boris Karloff in like old age makeup, pretty much, which is I think is more outstanding than like the actual bandages.
Yeah, the scary thing about it, he can give you a heart attack from a distance.
Oh yeah, that's stare because there's several close ups of him just staring. I think one of the more chilling scenes in the whole movie is Inimhotep calling a Noxa Moon. That's just so eerie.
When he's just sitting over that little pool that he has.
Yeah, and like smoke is coming up. Like that's like I think to me like that's almost more iconic than like the beginning because like that's like one of the first things that come to mind is that scene right there.
Actually, that whole flashback scene is my favorite scene in the whole movie, where where she dies and then he desecrates her tomb and they mummify him.
Yeah, well, we're talking about like a scene.
Yeah.
Like, but the first thing that pops in my head is him just doing that wish roll thing.
I also wanted to mention his alias, Ardeth Bay, is also the name of the leader of the Magi in the Brendan Fraser
Yeah,
version.
yeah. I thought that was a little cool nod. But the thing about Boris Karloff in this movie is like he can be like menacing, but like also appetizing too. Like you're really captured, like you're really intrigued by him. Like I found this time watching it just now, to be like very like engaged with the story and like little like all the things that they would say in the movie. Like these are technically low budget movies. Like Universal was like one of the low, like the B studios at this time, which is crazy because now they produce like Fast and the Furious, which is like one of the top grossing franchises ever.
As I said before, the flashback scene is my favorite scene of the
Mm.
movie. He basically desecrates Anxanamon's tomb, scroll of thought, and resurrects her. He's basically condemned to suffer through the afterlife too. And they basically kill the guards so
Mm.
they know where his burial is. It was the first, probably the first on-screen impaling ever.
Yeah, and that whole scene was kind of fucked up.
It was.
Yeah, but like I got a little confused when I rewound it. And I still didn't get it. What did a Noxa Moon do?
She just died for unexplained reasons.
Oh, okay. Because in the Brendan Fraser one, they Nemotep was hooking up with an Noxa Moon because that was like the Pharaoh's like
Yes,
girl.
she was the Pharaoh's daughter. Helen Grosvenor, Zeta Johan's character, is actually a reincarnation of Anxanamen on here.
And that
The-
actress, Sita Zohan, was really into the occult.
She looked like somebody who would be into the occult.
Yeah, see, basically, it was some film historian. I don't remember. If you watch the behind the scenes on the DVD,
Uh
basically,
huh.
guy interviewed her like back in the day, like in the 80s or the 70s or whatever, and basically he said, when I would play a character like some Shakespearean character, like I would like call upon that character, like the spirit of the character.
We got Dr. Mueller, a Van Helsing character played by the wonderful Edward Van Sloan.
I never was a big Andrew Van Sloan fan. He was just kind of delivers all of his performances kind of flatly to me.
It's just kind of a thing in these older Universal movies. The heroes are not the most, are always not the, are never the interesting part of this movie. It's always the monsters.
Yeah, it's always the monster and then like a side character usually. I think the other character that's really good is Dita Zohan as Helen. I think she's really good here. Not as memorable as like Dwight Fry,
Oh no.
and Frankenstein or like on the Bride or whatever, but she's still really good here. Like you really feel her despair.
You know, you see her kind of going back and forth between her past identity and her current one.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
like, Christine from Phantom of the Opera, where she kind of goes back and forth. I remember in the book she was like very back and forth. Like, do I want to be with the Phantom or do I want to be with Raoul? I mean, what else can we really say about the Mummy? Like, it's a classic. Like, freaking watch it. Like, it's October 1st. What are you doing? Watch some like Universal horror movies. Let's kind of talk about like the other Mummy movies. I guess we can kind of talk about the Christopher Lee Hammer one. I saw that one a couple years back. Was not into it at all. I did not like it. It was just Christopher Lee covered in mud.
I do kind of like that one. Yeah, but the Mummy's Hand from 1940. That one basically had Lon Chaney Jr. covered in makeup, and actually, the method of bringing the mummy back is different from the Karloff version.
Okay, how did they bring him back?
These special leaves called Tana leaves.
Oh, really?
They boil these high priests of Karnak, the one of the Egyptian gods. They boil 3 Tana leaves and give it to Karis to keep him alive. Then they boil 9 Tana leaves to have him start moving if they need him to kill somebody who desecrates the tomb of Princess Ananka, who he was mummified alive for trying to resurrect. And every movie, there's a different high priest of Karnak basically giving Karis orders.
And then of course, I love the Brendan Fraser one. Even the sequel, I love. I just broke on movies.
I was about 12 or 13. Actually, I was 13 when the sequel came out.
I mean, they're just fun movies. I think originally, before like Stephen Sommers came on board, they wanted it to be like really dark and have like Daniel Day Lewis as the title character, which I thought he would have been really good.
Well, this one was less horror and more like adventure type. I kind of see these movies as our generation's Indiana Jones.
I think Sommers really like had a love for these movies.
Obviously, he does.
Yeah, I mean, you also did like Van Helsing, which is a pretty fun movie.
Yeah, I know. I think that movie gets more hate than it deserves.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a bad movie. I mean, you just got to take it for what it is. It's just a fun action.
I know. I don't know what people are expecting.
I mean, I think they got into a little bit more of, like the Egyptian mythology a lot more. I feel like, but I didn't think the original Mummy had like a lot more atmosphere.
It does. I consider that like an artistic classic. I consider the Brendan Fraser ones a good time, no alcohol required.
Let's talk about um dumpster fire Tom Cruise Mummy.
I'm gonna admit something. I haven't watched that movie.
Oh really?
Yeah, I mean, but I have heard about how it grossed a lot in China.
Hmm.
And I can tell you, it was not because of the Universal monsters making a comeback or anything like
Hey,
that.
Tom Cruise.
Yeah, because he's a big draw over there.
I just my whole I think one other problem I had with the movie was like I didn't know what it wanted to be. I didn't know if it wanted to be like more serious, or it wanted to be like the Brendan Fraser.
Yeah, I think from what I've heard from it lacked focus and was focusing more on building a universe instead of just pacing that out.
Yeah, I mean, I would have loved like me like a little hint at the end.
Yeah.
Maybe we saw like Van Helsing.
Speaking of which, I thought I heard Dr. Jekyll they were going to use as the Nick Fury type character. I'm like, no, no. Van Helsing would have been a much better fit as the Nick Fury type character.
Yeah, I would have seen like I could have totally seen like Kurt Russell, not Kurt Russell, Russell Crowe, and like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, and
Yeah.
Dracula like teaming up. What's the thing? That's the interesting thing about the Mummy is that like they really don't own the name per se. I don't think because like that's just like a generic name.
Yeah, but the thing is, this mummy, unlike Dracula and Frankenstein, this was not based on a book. This is like an original creation. I mean, there was obviously The Ring of Thoth by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle,
Mm.
but other than that, there's like no literary source for this film.
Yeah, I think there's another book called Caliesta, and it was like this musician who basically fooled people saying that he was like a century that he was like centuries old or whatever.
And in the Ring of Thoth, it wasn't even really a mummy. Yeah, it was just this guy who was immortal from this Egyptian ring. But that's the closest thing I can think of.
Thank you for joining us on our first video of the October season with the 1932 Universal Horror Monster Classic, The Mummy, starring Boris Karloff. Next week, it's going to be a video, hopefully with my mom. We're doing Nosferatu, the oldest surviving Dracula movie. That's
Oh yeah.
that turned 100 this year.
Oh yeah, I know. I've got the DVD.
That crazy movie has been out for like 100 years at least. But anyways, guys, this has been Drew from Horror Sci-Fi and Beyond. Over and out. Bye.